I have a few things I want to get to. I want to record them at the very least for myself. One is I've only recently, within the last couple years, I turned 46. I turned 46 more or less yesterday. Even though I can't remember the first couple of years of my life, so I don't know if my parents were telling me the truth of when I was born. It says it on my birth certificate, but I can't remember. Can I come to remember? Can I come to know what was? Certainly there are those who speak of the Akashan records. Doesn't come up so much in this book, or at least it's not expelled upon, but is there a way for me to come to know? He did. The one with the title, the one with the claim, he did. So did his mom. So did his consort. So has his many, many wives. It's interesting that we hear from time to time that paradise, aka heaven, is populated with our 72 virgin wives. If we're coming at paradise that way, if we're coming at heaven that way, they won't be virgins for long, huh? Right? After you've had your way, you old white bread motherfuckers like me, all of a sudden you got 72 hoes. Maybe. I don't know. It's a way of looking at it. Sorry for being like that about it. Because if I say it only like that, and I'm not saying it only like that, so hold the fuck on. This is the part where I put a semicolon. Hold up. Alright, that was one thing I wanted to get to, and unfortunately I won't get to the rebuke of what I'm saying. I presented one side without presenting the other. I have the other, but that's not part of the annotative process of today. One of the things I wanted to get to today was just that first line, which is held in such contempt. I mean, all of Genesis 1 is held in such contempt. But the first two verses of the Bible and I've been looking for an inroad to the Babylonian, to the Assyrian. It was a few years ago, I finally found an inroad into Egypt. I found the inroad in the Bible. When Moses told God, I have uncircumcised lips, and he said it a couple times in a row. My mind went, uncircumcised lips? because because I have a history in art, a very small history, but enough. Sometimes the little bit we have is enough. I have a little bit of a background in art. I have a little bit of a background in the faiths, if we can call them that, which we can't. But the gift of faith is a brutal bitch, and you don't want it. People tossing around that word, faith. People tossing it around. The greatest of these is love. Right. But if you don't love your enemy and you don't love your neighbor, and you don't, how do I know? Because you can't be so unlike me. I don't love my neighbor, and I don't love my enemy. Especially if my neighbor's my enemy, right? I've had a couple few in my life, right? And I can't ever take that back. Oh, I can love my neighbor now. Yeah. As well we should. I'm still trying to learn that lesson. I know it's true. But that's not enough. For some of us, knowing that is not enough. For some of us, it is. But the way we know in different ways. It's a difficult problem yet to be resolved. So, a small prayer that we may resolve it. Just a small prayer that we may resolve. And I ain't hating on you for hating your neighbor. Because if your neighbor's been like my neighbor... Right, but then again, I've also been that neighbor. And I continue to be that neighbor, even though I know knowing is not enough. Knowing isn't enough. That's a step leader, by the way. Knowing isn't enough. It's not, well, maybe it is my fault. I was about to say, it's not my fault. Knowing's not enough, but wait. Do I have the capacity for knowing? For gnosis? It's funny that gnosis is, I won't say the objective of God. Well, God's unchanging, so there can't be an objective, but wait. A new heaven and a new earth, right? What? God's unchanging. I am the Alpha and the Omega, but wait a minute. The Alpha and the Omega, well, the Alpha isn't the same thing as the Omega. I am the beginning and the end. Wait, I am the beginning and the end. God is unchanging. God is being itself. Being without becoming? Can being be without becoming? Is that such a far-flung fantasy that we can't imagine it at all? That being becomes? That being is a becoming? At any instantaneous tangent, at any double prime, is it irrational? Well, there's rationality, which is ratios, but wait, what numbers, right? Because reason, because people put reason against myth. People put philosophy against theology. Wait, what? Myth is the story. For instance, I love this metaphor. Aesop is never derided, ever. Aesop is never derided. Aesop is the most beloved Greek, more beloved than Archimedes, more beloved than Pythagoras, and it's funny too that, like, for instance, we call Heraclitus Greek, and he's not, and we call the Neoplatonists, and Plato is associated with Greece, and like he put that big sign, if you don't know geometry, don't come here. But then I can't remember if it's Euripides. It was either Euripides or someone associated with Euripides who created a better, because people harsh on epicycles when it comes to like Galileo and like heliocentrism or geocentrism or whatever, and people harsh on epicycles, but a lot of people who hate on this thing and who love Plato, we'll also talk about the flat earth, this, that, whatever. I mean, the Indians had the flat earth figured out fucking back when Abram was a glimmer in his fucking mother's eye. Just saying. But people always talking about Assyria, Babylonia. Nobody's looking at India. Just saying. But just saying. Maybe it's better if I press on. In the beginning, Genesis 1, like the first few words of the Bible. What? In the beginning, yes, God created the heaven and the earth. I never noticed it before because it's like heaven and the earth, Wait. In the beginning, at least notice in the King James, and when we read the King James, we cannot ever forget Queen Anne and her legacy. Queen Anne slaves. L-A-C-E. Nor can we forget Francis Bacon. Literally, and, as it so happens, literarily, which means mythologically, not mythically, we set the Logos against mythology at our peril, because the Logos is beside the mythos. Where the mythos and the Logos meet is mythology. There are many things rhetorical outside of the Logos that appear logical. For instance, Plato's Republic, the worst book ever written. Even though I appreciate you if you appreciate it. It's a tough question. I mean, I'm not a I was going to say I'm not a Christian because I don't fit the bill of what people think a Christian is. But I recognize this is it's the most valuable artifact in the world. definitely. And I wholeheartedly believe in God. And my great problem, so far as Christians are concerned, and it depends deeply what we mean by Christians. You know, the etymologies, what that word would have meant through the ages, didn't really catch hold until, interestingly, the word Christian caught hold in England about the same time that Raphael painted the papal apartments of Julius II. Isn't that interesting? I'm pretending to be curious about it. I figured it out a few years ago, even though I'm actually still curious about it. Sorry for being all up in it like that. But yeah, this is the most poetic. Genesis 1 is more like a title. And because we've heard it so many times, it's become dull upon our ears. Fine. No problem. Let it be dull upon your ears. I will refresh it with the second verse. What am I saying? I'm saying when I read the second verse, all of a sudden the first verse will become fresh. Maybe. For a couple of you. If I reach one of you, I've done my job tonight. Thank you, ye dear one. And if I reach 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000, fine. 100 or 1,000, fine. 10 or 20, fine. 2, awesome. Anyone. Are you out there? Yes. You're out there. Perhaps today you were asking if anyone was out there. It's not that I hope and I pray that I'm that one for you, because I don't deserve to be that one for you. Even though I'm now long dead, buried, decrepit, rotted, wasted away. I'm hoping I reach you 1,000 years from now. I am. Why? That's why I'm talking. I'm not talking to the people of today, unfortunately, even though I want to, because my pride is so great. But if I reach you long after I'm gone and I have become the dust, do I want to reach Peter's gates, the pearly gates of heaven? Yes, of course I do. But I recognize what matters most is that we populate heaven with souls. If I'm given the choice between my soul or 10 souls, I must not get there. Those 10 souls must get there. It's our job to populate heaven. I hate that. Yet, it's true. Now, will that kind of sacrifice get us there? Well, maybe if we mean it. Now, just because I'm saying it that, don't think that I mean that. Is that how I live my life? I'm a house painter, man. I paint second houses for rich people. People who have like 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. I paint their houses. That's my job. That's how I make my bread. Now, I'm grateful for it because I didn't ever think I'd be ever able to make my bread. And I make more than I should, doing less than I should, for people who may or may not deserve it, who have a lot. Well, others have little. I have little. So a lot of people have little because of their circumstances. I am not one of those people. I have, well, it depends what we mean by circumstances, but some people give everything they have to their family, to their community, to their local government, to the church, to their community, to people around them in their lives. Right? I don't do that. I give everything to this. And I do a bad job. And I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry I failed you. Because I've not done as good a job as I should have. Got to get back to it. Back on track. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Yeah, we've heard that before. Wait. Now, slip if you have that. If you have the capacity to slip into a poetic mode. One of the things I like about the word poetic is if you slip an I in there, you get poesis, which is like slipping an I in poesis, in poetry, or poesis is I think it's poesis. It's more generative. It's like creation with the mouth. So like it's a little bit like poetry and a little bit speaking the truth into the world, or speaking into reality, or creating reality through speech, right? Anyway, if you have the capacity to be artistic with language in that way, I'd like to put a footnote to the Whorfian hypothesis for the linguists out there. I know Whorf has been pretty much set aside. He wasn't set aside. Whorf is the linguistic boomerang that is about to come back. Chomsky, not my bag, but I appreciate him and I love him, and I recognize and understand that Chomsky has been the spear of the age, so to speak. But that Whorfian boomerang's coming back. I'm not saying this is going to be how it happens. Sometimes I get visions. Sometimes I break codes. Sometimes I have intuitions. And sometimes I just think about shit and get it wrong. So, my assumption is that God bless his soul, that when Chomsky unfortunately and inevitably passes, which may or may not be within my lifetime because I have my own ills, and though I'm younger than Chomsky, and on this video I might look younger or healthier, I assure you Chomsky is healthier than me. I assure you. Looks can be deceiving. Perhaps I am. Perhaps I am the living portrait of Dorian Gray. Or perhaps the world is my portrait. The world looks ugly these days. And I appear, even on my channel I've appeared to age, but I assure you, inside, my aging is quicker. My pains, my inner pains, are not evident in this video. Physical or mental, or spiritual, psychological, metaphysical pains. I'm being all dramatic about it. And that's one of the things about, like, people who have utopian visions. Like, yeah, the idea of utopia is bad because the people who envision utopias don't understand how deep the rabbit hole goes, maybe. trying to create a more peaceful world isn't the same thing as trying to create an impossible utopia. If we took away all the butchery from the world, if we took away from every single... Imagine this. We take away the butcherousness from any single person. Like, you feel safe, right? Why? How? You know there are others in the world who aren't safe, right? You feel safe. You go to work, punch your time card, whatever, do your thing, blah, 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 come home, get your paycheck, go to the bank. You trust the bank. You'll bitch about them. Make a Twitter post. You trust the government. You still get your tax refund, don't you? You get your tax refund on time, probably even. Now I'm talking to myself. I pay every bill late, but I pay them. Most of them. Almost all of them. Yeah, there's a couple bills I haven't paid. And those aren't my worst sins. They all bother me. One of the ways I justify not paying my bills is like, these are big corporations, big old corporate motherfuckers. Fuck them. They got plenty of money, these motherfucking billionaires, millionaires, blah, blah, blah. Fuck them. But then the other part of me is like, well, if they want to steal, let them take it. It's weird. You know, when we look at the railroads, what's going on with the railroads these days, and the railroad unions and the railroad workers, the railroad workers are getting fucked in America. The infrastructure's crumbling. These guys are working ungodly fucking hours, doing all this shit, keeping the distribution networks running. Getting fucked. Making huge profits for shareholders who are truly fleecing. Instead of heralding like that great moment, you know, this is one of the things about America. So this should be a new holiday. The Golden Spike. I'll get to this at another time, but I'll bring it up. But like that Golden Spike, when the Chinese and the Irish, essentially, drove that Golden Spike connecting the East and the West on the railroad. It's one of the greatest things that has ever happened in the world. What I would love to see, because I live in, I was going to say this, like, we call them, I live in New Hampshire, right? I go to Vermont every day. I travel up and down Interstate 91. Right? I consider myself like a Vermont, New Hampshirean, right? So if I say I live in New Hampshire, you might think I live in Manchester or Concord. I ain't no Loudon, New Hampshireite. I'm a Connecticut River Valleyan. As it so happens, my loyalty, my love is for the Connecticut River Valley. The Mid-River Valley. The Upper Valley. The Lower Valley. Of the Twin States and the Tri-States. New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts. But around here, we don't call Massachusetts, Massachusetts. We call it Mass. And when you think of Mass, you think of Boston, Mass. And when you think of Mass, Massachusetts, an Indian word. But then when we think of Boston, Mass, a Catholic word. This all has to do with the teleological etymology. is the backwards etymology. It's, if you take, the Aristotelian four causes, one of them is the teleological cause, which is the end point. We're not at the end point yet, but it's interesting. Essentially, I mean, there's Jamestown, this, that, whatever, but essentially, everything in the United States was birthed into Massachusetts. The Pilgrims, the Mayflower. April showers bring May flowers. Boston, Mass. Boston is especially Irish. And I know in Boston there's also a little China, a Chinatown. It would be really, 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 really fucking awesome if someday there's a holiday in Boston, Massachusetts that is the Day of the Golden Spike. It would be really, really awesome if the Irish of Boston with the Catholic spirit, Catholic as being world, more than that, flooded into Chinatown with